giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.
What's the deal, y'all? I'm bringing you guys a video from 9 o'clock at night. As you can see behind me, it's completely dark, but in front of me I have my Nismo seats with my BMW on as well to give me lighting, so thank you for that. But these are for sale if you guys are interested. This came out of my 2012 Nissan 370Z Nismo. Just bought other seats, so nothing in particular that's wrong with these. So let me know if you guys are interested. Hit me in my DMs or even comment on this video. Just want to go ahead and plug these because I am selling these. So on a different note, I do want to show you everything that we have done since the previous videos about the 2JZ. So starting off, first thing first, let me take off the oil cap and the valve cover. You guys remember I was putting on my boots for the coil packs. So I finally got the boots and springs in, went ahead and installed them, and these are finally bolted down. So these aren't coming out, which is really good news. I also did get the 2JZ Wiring Specialties harness conversion kit. So this goes along with the 2JZ to the LQ9 coil packs. So these are fully seated, ready to go. I even have my little grommets in here. I did put the new valve cover gaskets in here on, and I did put the new hardware as well. So everything is fully bolted down. I wasn't going to do this at first just because I was still planning to get these valve covers painted. But I think for right now, with the money that I've spent so far and even the parts that I still have on the way, I think I've spent enough for right now. So I do want to just get the car running, driving first, and then I can take these off and order some new gaskets. I think the valve cover gaskets were like $30 for the pair, so it's really inexpensive. This is fully good to go, so technically I could button this up, but I'm just gonna wait, just kind of leave it hanging on because I'm pretty sure, you know, we'll need to come in here. Oh, I forgot to mention I did gap my spark plugs as well, so they are gapped to 0.20 all the way across the board. Now you guys might have remembered that we were going ahead and tightening the exhaust manifold down. So I do have the gasket here, the exhaust manifold is fully tied down, and my T4 flange did come in as well for the turbo, so that is in here with the new hardware and studs. I had some different studs before. They actually weren't studs, it was just a nut and a bolt, but I decided not to go that route just because it was a little confusing and hard to get to under the manifold. So these are actually studs with just some bolts that go on top. So once I take these bolts off, the studs will actually stay in the manifold, which is really nice. Again, my turbo is T4, the exhaust manifold is T4, and everything is twin scroll. So this setup should spool very, very fast. I'm really excited to see what it can do. Something you guys didn't really see, did put my 44mm tile wastegate on the manifold. This is plumbed, and I do have fittings in here, but after reading up on like how to connect these fittings with the electronic boost controller that I'm going to be running, I actually need to take some of these plugs off. So like one in here, and then there's another one I believe on the back side here. So I need to take two of them off because I will be running two, and then I can either leave this one in here at the top, or there's another one on the side that's a little bit higher as well that I could utilize as well. So I need to get that situated, but as far as this mounting wise, this is not going anywhere. This is very hard to put on. I actually don't even remember what spring I have in this wastegate. We're just gonna run with it and see what it makes, but I already know I'm gonna be running probably around like 25 pounds on E85, so this shouldn't be nowhere near that, but if it is, then obviously we'll have to take it out and put a smaller spring in, so that way, you know, we're able to up the boost as opposed to not being able to go down. Another little small detail that came in for my power steering component was actually one of the fittings right here from Powerhouse Racing. So they make some really nice fittings. I'm not sure this is the feed return. I don't really know a lot about power steering, but I could loosen this bolt right here and I can actually twist this fitting and run the line however I want, where before this fitting would actually just be straight up, kind of pointing directly at the manifold. So that was interfering with this front facing manifold. If you guys had the stock 2JZ manifold that's higher up, you won't have to buy a component like this, but since I'm running this manifold, I needed to buy something to get this out of the way so that way I can run it straight down. So I'm really liking that. Very expensive piece for just a small item, but it is what it is. Something that was pretty interesting about the wiring harness for the injectors, I'm not sure where I messed up, but these are actually EV6 injector connectors. I need EV1 injector connectors. I don't know if you guys can see the difference here, but basically it doesn't fit at all no matter what I do. Actually, my friend actually has some adapters that one side will plug into here and then the other side will go into my injector. I'm waiting for that to connect them together, and then also my injectors have been running E85 since I was turbo VQ, so I feel like it's good to get them clean just because they've been sitting for about 4 to 5 months. And with this build and how much money I'm spending on everything, I really don't want any mistakes anywhere or any cut corners. So I'm gonna go ahead and fork out the money to get these cleaned properly before I go ahead and install them back in. But luckily, since this manifold is like a front facing manifold, this is very easy to install. I'm not really worried about that. As far as fueling goes, I mentioned I was going to be running E85. This is my fuel pressure regulator. So this will be mounted somewhere on the car, somewhere on the chassis of the car. But my fuel pressure sensor ended up coming in. So I went ahead and screwed that into this housing right here, because usually people will run some type of like gauge or something right here where you can see your fuel pressure. But since I have such an advanced ECU, my ECU will actually display all of that stuff. So this sensor will display directly to my ECU. You know, that's why it's connected in here. So I'm really excited about that. I don't really have to look at anything manual anymore, just like the boost controller is now going to be electronic whenever that comes in. But yeah, that's just a really cool piece. So nothing crazy here, just a regular fuel pressure regulator with some fittings and stuff like that. So you guys will see more on the install as far as once we start putting all the lines on here later. Thing a little less interesting, this is under the intake manifold side right here. So if we go under the intake manifold, there's actually a little fitting right here that is blocked off now. But before, when you have the regular oil sandwich adapter tree, there's actually a connection that connects to there to that tree part. But since we're not utilizing that tree anymore, we needed to block that off. So that was something I wasn't aware of. I didn't know that there was another oil port on this side of the engine. So I needed to go ahead and buy that. I believe I got that from Powerhouse Racing as well. Again, very expensive piece for such a small item, but it is what it is. And then another thing, speaking about the oil filter adapter, this one is a regular one. So you can just run this to an oil cooler or something along the lines of that. But since I want to measure my oil temperature and stuff like that, I believe I got this from Drift Motion. They actually make another one that has one with the oil temperature and the oil pressure. So I went ahead and ordered the other one that I need, which is a little bit more money than this one. So if you guys are interested, I mean, this one will be for sale. It is just one piece. So again, if you do buy this, you would still need to buy the other piece right here where your oil filter would mount to, and then the lines would run, you know, off of this as well. They do sell it separately. Like I said, I got this from Drift Motion. So it is something that you can buy, you know, one at a time. So if I sell you this one, you can buy the other one, or vice versa. Just something I noticed. I didn't really realize that because I was trying to plug in my oil pressure sensor right here. And I'm like, okay, where does this plug into? But on their other one, they have two fittings on that for oil pressure and oil temperature. So went ahead and got the other one. That one should be here soon. And then I'll be able to go ahead and plug this in. Okay, so really quick, I know I had just filmed the part as far as telling you everything that I got for the JZ, but as you guys remember, this was the oil filter relocation kit that was bolted on to the JZ that we installed. Turns out I'm not going to be running this, and the main reason is because I need something to where I can plug an oil temp sensor and an oil pressure sensor, and this has no fittings for me to be able to do that. This is just simply relocating the oil filter. This one, on the other hand, has two ports to where I can run my oil temp and oil pressure. So as well over here, I have the oil temp sensor here. So this will just thread right into one of these fittings, and then my oil pressure sensor is actually over there already plugged in, so I can just go ahead and thread that in. So these are actually both from Drift Motion. They're the same company. I don't know why this one looks a lot, you know, better quality or anything like that, but they're the exact same company. I do have the other side that will be mounted remotely. It's going to be over there. But as far as the one that goes onto the block, this is the sandwich plate that I'm going to be using. So if you guys are interested in this, let me know. I will sell this for a good deal. I mean, it is brand new. I did install it. Hasn't been ran. No oil's been through it or anything like that. But just let me know. I will give you a discount since I did, you know, put it on and stuff like that. I'm really stoked about this. This one does look a lot, you know, higher quality. I believe this one is billet by the way it looks. I'm not sure what this one is, but yeah. And then another cool thing that came in is another block off plate. So this one is actually for leveling system. So essentially, I guess with the stock JZ, they have this weird sensor right here, and pretty much when you connect that sensor to the stock harness, it would actually tell the car how much oil is in there. I think that's a really cool feature, but for a lot of swaps, what I see, a lot of people just get this block off plate and just put that there. So that's the same thing that we're gonna be doing, because we have a dipstick now, which is a really, really nice dipstick. So we can always check our oil with this thing right here. So we won't really need to utilize that, but I just feel like that's a cool feature from the factory that you wouldn't really think, you know, back in the 90s and even the late 80s that they had something like that. So that's pretty cool. The last pieces that came in is another sensor. This is the IAT sensor, also known as the intake air temperature sensor. Sometimes a lot of people put that on the intake manifold somewhere, but in our case, since all of our ports underneath are gonna be utilized, we're actually gonna just be putting this into the intercooler piping, just like right there, as soon as it connects into the throttle body there. So at least that way the air is the most accurate and it is closest. But that's another cool piece that came in. So other than that, I think the only thing I need to get, I probably need to go ahead and order another oil filter, because this motor isn't, you know, technically brand new at all, but I do want to do maybe some type of like flush. So we'll just run it with the oil that we get for a bit and then, you know, drain it out and then put a new filter and new oil in it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that as well. But yeah, definitely check out Drift Motion. They make some really high quality and nice parts, as you guys can see. Both of these pieces are very nice, but this one on the other hand, a bit more expensive than that one over there, but still definitely worth the money. So I'm not sure if you guys need an install video about how to install these, but I just wanted to kind of throw this in here, might as well. You don't need to use any Teflon tape. This fitting actually has an O-ring right here. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it has an O-ring, so you can actually just go ahead and screw them in, and as soon as you tighten them all the way down, it will seal up correctly. So once you get them in, we can go ahead and snug them in. So the sensors on the other hand, I have my oil pressure sensor here and then my oil temperature sensor. You don't want to really put anything on here. You can actually just go ahead and thread these in as so. And same thing for the oil pressure. And then after your setup is done, it'll look something like this. Real quick, something to keep in mind. If you look at the back of this, you can see where the sensors go. There's actually going to be some type of like opening on the back here, and you want to make sure that if you have a oil temp sensor that you put it in the correct one, because the oil temp sensor is longer than the oil pressure. So that's something that I didn't realize, because I actually had it installed the other way when I just showed you. So I took it out and put it in the correct holes. So if you are running the oil temp and oil pressure, make sure the oil temperature is always ran through the correct one. Again, you can tell because it's just longer than the other one. And now we're just gonna install it like normal. So it's just gonna thread on here pretty easily. And the thing is, when you start to tighten down your actual fittings right here, it's still gonna twist the entire unit. So you guys can see it's still twisting and tightening it. So you just wanna make sure you get it nice and snug. I'll tighten the other one. You know when it's tight because when you go to twist it, it won't actually twist anymore. All right, now that we have that all tightened up, now I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a wrench and tighten down my oil pressure sensor and my oil temp sensor, and this setup is good to go. Go ahead and get this thing installed, but before we do, I went ahead and took off the other one, and check this out. This is the sensor right here, as you guys can see, but I didn't realize this thing was so darn big. So yeah, this thing is deep in there, which I guess how else is it supposed to sense it? But yeah, that's what that looks like. I didn't even realize that that thing was that gigantic. So now we have a giant hole. So we'll go ahead and plug that up with our new little block off plate right here and get that looking all nice. So I'll show you the finished product. And boom, just like that, we got the new piece on there looking all nice. I love that it came with some new hardware, so that way we don't have to use this crusty looking hardware. But yeah, it looks really nice, ties it in super well. And that's gonna be those parts. These are all from Drift Motion. So again, this one, the new adapter, as well as the block off plate, all from Drift Motion. If you guys want to, use code Z85Juke. No, I'm just kidding, bro. We're not there yet, but we will get there one day. Best believe, I believe in that. So another sensor that we do need to replace, if you guys are familiar with 2JZs, this is the VVTi motor, and this is the VVTi solenoid. There is no sensor here. It's actually supposed to be kind of poking out right here. So if I take off this valve cover, you guys will kind of see that it's broken off clearly. So I ordered another one. It'll actually be here tomorrow. So I'll go ahead and throw that on, and this will be fully replaced, so we can go ahead and plug this in. But other than that, I think we are good to go as far as all of the sensors that we have on this engine. So now, again, we're just waiting on that transmission adapter, and we should be good to go. So taking this thing off is pretty self-explanatory. There's a 10mm bolt right here on top. So we'll go ahead and remove that now. Once you get that out, you can actually just kind of wiggle this thing side to side and basically you'll be able to get this thing out of here. Might be a little difficult, but you can do it. And there we go. So what I did, just kind of wiggled it back and forth, and then I've ended up pushing it in and then pulling it out, came right out. So as you guys can see, the sensor on my VVTi solenoid is actually broken off, probably when we were yanking off the old engine harness, because we didn't really care and didn't really know what we were doing. So we just kind of doing it vigorously. So we'll get that tomorrow, and I'll go ahead and install that in here. As you can see, got the new VVTi solenoid in here, right there. Got it plugged in, good to go. Making my way to the back of the engine here. I know in the previous video you guys saw us install the rear main seal. As you guys can see, if you can tell, there isn't a rear main seal in here anymore. We actually went ahead and removed the new one that my friend installed, and come to find out, it pushed in too far at the bottom. So if you look at the bottom, you can actually see further in than on the sides. So I don't know if it's just the force that we used maybe on the bottom or what it was, but basically we pushed it in too far, so it would have been an issue. So instead of just trying to run it like that and hoping it didn't go in too far, we just decided to go ahead and take it out, and I ordered a new one, so that one should be here. We'll definitely take our time to install the other one, because I know some people commented on it and was like, hey, you know, I think you pushed in the rear main seal. So I do appreciate you guys for that. Yes, we did notice that, so we took it out immediately. I just went ahead and threw it in the footage just because we did film it, and you got to film your mistakes, man. You know, like I said, nobody's perfect, and that's what the whole community should be about, you know, just helping each other, not bashing each other. So I appreciate the guys that did hit us up saying that we did push that in too far. So with all that being said, I think the only things that I am waiting on left, one of the major pieces is obviously to adapt my transmission to my engine. So I was waiting on an adapter plate type of thing. It's not really a plate that goes in between there and that. It's actually one where you cut the bell housing, and I did it that way just because it's just a lot easier. If I got an adapter plate that I would have to put in between the trans and the engine, I would have had to get a new shifter, which again is just more money. It's like $500–600 just for this with the shifter. And then also my mount wouldn't have lined up, so I would have had to get a new mount made. And also my drive shaft, which is behind this pile of parts over here, that wouldn't have fit either. So with us cutting the bell housing, I can actually reuse most of this stuff: drive shaft, the shifter, and my mount. So that's the only reason why we went with that route. But I'm waiting for it to come in. It's coming from Mosworks, I believe they're in Florida. I paid over $2,000 for that piece before Christmas, and I know it's just a bad time to order any type of parts, but I'm just waiting on that so we can go ahead and start cutting the bell housing on my trans so we can get this made. Oh, and not to mention, it is coming with a clutch. So I think they have two clutches. They have a single disc, which is the one I went with, and then they also have a twin disc. Their twin disc is rated for like something crazy. I want to say like 1200 or something foot-pounds of torque, which is just outrageous. This is a stock 2J. And then their single disc, which is rated for about 650 torque. So that is more our speed. I'm not really sure what these things make torque wise. I do want to keep the numbers a little conservative just because it is a stock JZ, but at the same time, I know these things can and will make a lot of power when they are done right, aka this one. You know, I went with the single disc hoping that'll be enough, so we'll see. I don't drift this car or anything like that, but I definitely want to have some fun. I might end up taking this car to the track once it is said and done. That's going to be pretty much the update as far as mine. Waiting on the trans adapter, get my injectors clean, and really just installing the rest of the stuff that I have. You guys see I have intercooler piping and intercooler radiator. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done still. It's just I'm trying to get the right pieces, and I want to move at the right pace. I do not want to rush this build. This is a very, very, very expensive motor and just very expensive parts. So this thing has to be done right the first time, because I've done too many builds where I just rush it or buy cheap parts and then just end up redoing it and spending more money in the end. So I want to make sure I buy the best stuff that I can while I can at a good pace. So I appreciate you guys' patience. Stay tuned for the next upcoming videos. If you guys are interested in my Nismo seats, please hit me in the DMs. Other than that, that is it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, my boy.
You're out?
Yes, sir.
Is this the right
appreciate
spot?
you. Yeah, he just said to go into the gate. Because I already have my boarding pass, I guess, so I showed him. So he said it's cool, so appreciate you, bro. Yep. I'll see you in a week. You'll see the videos here soon, huh? You better record some stuff.
I will.
All right, dog. Drive safe, bro. Appreciate you.